Alright, here's my 2022 Z900rs. I've done a few things to it. I have the sliders right there, center stand. The light is great, but I can't see anything at night, so put these Denali D3, I believe, hybrid lens. Got the flood and the spots on both sides. I put the Akrapovic exhaust headers on it. Got rid of the bread box on the bottom, the catalytic converter. It's a lot louder now. Has the brackets for the Puig retro semi-fairing, but I usually don't ride with that, only when I'm doing a lot of highway. I also have the new Rage Cycles fender Eliminator. Tucks those in really nicely. Alright, let's go. Let's hear this exhaust. Alright, about me. I'm 6 foot, 32-inch inseam, 220 pounds, and I fit perfect on this bike. It's a great bike for tall riders. Not too much bend in the knee. Now, I did get the Ivan's flash, the ECU flash from Ivan's Performance on it. Really smoothed out the throttle. So stock, the throttle is pretty snatchy. Like right here on the on point, you'll be doing this on and off the throttle. But now, I was exaggerating that. Now it's really a lot smoother. It still has bite. I was worried it was going to take away the bite from it. You know, that acceleration feel. But it didn't at all. I think this is one of the best, actually, scratch that. I think this is the best retro bike. The retro remake bikes. I've owned two Triumphs. A Triumph T1, 2014 Triumph T100, and I've also owned a 2015 Triumph Scrambler, the 865 air-cooled versions. And those bikes were cool. They look fantastic, but the suspension was always lacking for me, and the build quality was good, but it wasn't great. There was a lot of frame rusting issues from those years. I haven't ridden the new T120s. They're now water cooled. I'm sure those are bitchin' bikes, and I'll probably get one eventually. But I love that this bike has that retro look. Not as retro, not as old looking as a Triumph T100 or something, but it has that retro look, that 70s look, but also the modern amenities of monoshock suspension, LED lights, a water cooled, and the 4-cylinder is a dream. I've never been a sport bike rider. I've never been one to try to drag my knee in every corner. So this bike really speaks to me. I've got the power that I want. It's good enough for me to hit the canyons and all that, even with the stock suspension. Ah, shit. Why don't you guys tell me I had the blinker on the whole fucking time? Stock suspension is fine. I like that it's fully adjustable. The front, if you can see, front forks are fully adjustable. The rear is adjustable. I actually adjusted the rear preload to max out for my weight, 220 pounds, let's say, with gear. I maxed it out, and I think it was a little too stiff for my liking, so I backed it off a little bit. Now it's probably at 80%, 75% of the preload. Get a little more comfort. If you're trying to hit the track and you're really trying to go hard in the canyons, you probably want to get the Olin shocks or something like that, set up for your weight if you're my size. But just straight out of the box, I have no wants for this suspension. Love the Triumph Bonnevilles. I hate that they still have tube tires. I don't want to run tube tires, especially on the freeway. You know, I never had a problem with them when I rode with them, but just the off chance that you could pop a tube and bam, all air is gone, all control's gone. Give me a tubeless, let it leak slowly, let me be able to plug it. That's what I want. And I know they do it for looks and the vibe it's going for, but give me the option, Triumph. Make most of them with spokes, and then give me a mag wheel like they originally had, or do like BMW and give me a tubeless spoke wheel. First of all, this color Candytone Blue is to die for. I hope they make it for another year. When the sun hits it, shining with that gold on the side. So yeah, the fit and finish on this bike is fantastic. Everything, the chrome, handlebars, the paint, even down to the paint on the front fender brackets. Those are even metallic painted. There's all kinds of details in this bike that is just really nicely done. They were definitely going for a halo bike kind of deal, even though it's not. They got the H2 and all that, but as far as style, this bike is one of the leaders for them for sure. Miles per gallon, no idea, don't care. It's good enough. Yeah, I picked the RS version over the Cafe version. The Cafe has a glorious front cowl. I wish I could get that cowl on this, but the brake reservoir, you gotta relocate that. Something else, who fucking knows. I think the handlebars, these handlebars are higher. The Cafe comes with kind of like a M bar lower, also a lower seat. I test rode the Cafe and it looks amazing, but for me it was a little too far leaned over. Like I said, I'm not a sport bike guy. Just rained out here. Take it easy, take it easy. But yeah, I went with this one. It has the higher seat. The RS has a higher seat than the Cafe, and it's better for taller riders. My legs are definitely a little more scrunched on the Cafe version, which was cool. It's doable. So the negatives after a year that I found with it, there's not too many, but I definitely say the transmission has not been the best. It's got you know, the clutch lever is super light, but I found a lot of when you're hammering on it, you'll get a lot of false neutrals. And when I say a lot, I mean every so often. But for me, that's enough that it shouldn't be happening at all. I've had trouble where I'm trying to get into gear or switch gears, and it hasn't switched at all. Have to keep kicking it. So that's a bummer. 99% of the time I don't have anything. These are just a couple times a year, a few times a year, I'll get something like that with the transmission not agreeing with me in one way or another. And that's a bummer for an otherwise probably perfect bike. I think stated they have 110 horsepower, like 75 foot-pounds of torque. You know, it's obviously a little less horsepower at the wheel on the dyno, but with the tune, you get a lot of that back, if not all of it and more. Like I was saying earlier, gives you that jerky throttle. Stock, it got pretty annoying, especially with all this power. It would be one thing if this was a lower powered bike. You know, you got 50 horsepower, 60 horsepower. It's not a big deal. You're leaned over in a corner and you get a little jerkiness, whatever. With 100 plus horsepower, you're leaned over, you get back on the throttle a little bit, it could really jerk you around. You know, I didn't get any accidents with it or anything, but it wasn't like that. But it's startling. It's definitely startling. So after the tune, or before the tune actually, I got the Akrapovic headers, sent the EC out for a tune. It's a lot louder. I definitely hear less induction noise. When the bike was stock, you could hear the induction pulling in air, and it sounded rad. Definitely hear the exhaust a lot more now, but that's cool too, you know. It's a little bit of this or that. One thing I didn't realize about Kawasaki's is they have a solid neutral. Like, you can hold up all the way with your foot and it'll go into neutral when you're stopped. It won't go up to second gear. I think maybe some of that might be why sometimes the transmission hiccups. As for this bike, I couldn't be happier. Even with the seldom issue of the transmission, every now and again, it's not a deal breaker at all. Great headlights, great fit and finish, paintwork exceptional, engine is fantastic. I've ridden some 4-cylinders that have a lot of vibrations. I rode the S1000XR and I was stoked to ride it, and I was bummed. I don't know if it was a demo bike from the demo truck that I was riding or not, but there was a ton of vibrations in the pegs, in the seat, bothering me. This one has nothing. Slight tingle when you're really getting on it like this. Not much at all, and I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff. Such a beautiful engine, a lot of torque down low, not like a sport bike where you gotta rev it out to get in that power band. You know, from the looks of it, it looks like a just cruise around, and you could definitely do it, but it's not that bike. Not with this much power in the engine. It always, to me at least, it begs me to go. It wants me to keep going. It wants me to go faster. This would be a terrible bike for a beginner. This is more intermediate, at least intermediate rider, because I could definitely see somebody getting in trouble with all this power and this engine that wants to go. Typical Nissan. Classic. Alright, I'm gonna take it easy. No, that fucking Nissan is running reds. So not a great beginner bike. Not really a around town. I mean, it is an around town bike, don't get me wrong. It's got power, but you don't have to be on it. But to me, it begs me to push a little bit. You know, definitely something like the Z900 was real just beach cruiser kind of bike. You know, 2-cylinder, not a ton of horsepower. That's something you could just cruise around on, not have a care in the world. You're fine cruising on this too, like this. Something people don't really talk a lot about is oil changes. Super easy to change oil on this. The filter is exposed in a really easy spot on the bottom. Super easy to just twist it off, put a new one on, pull the drain bolt, easy peasy. Fill her up. I just did the brakes myself, and I hate doing brakes. A lot of people don't like these, but I like being able to see exactly what's in there when I'm filling up. I don't want to look through a little sight glass, so it works for me. Anyway, Z900rs Candytone Blue. Buy it or don't, I don't care. It's a rad bike.